Combathletes all over the world, welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe to the Combathlete channel. And if you're joining us in the Skool community, congratulations, you are now officially part of one of the best combat sports communities in the world, where it's my job to help you guys with as many free resources as possible. Who am I? My name is Coach Harry. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I help amateur and professional combat sports athletes all over the world train pain-free, build strength and weaponize their gas tanks without spending endless hours in the weight room. And an added bonus, yes, I'm actually qualified to do so. If you're not following our Instagram already at Combathlete Arena, make sure you drop us a follow there, because you can also communicate with me via DM, asking me any questions you've got about your strength and conditioning, and I'll try and help you as much as possible. Today's theme then, how to track your workload. This is a game changer. We do this with every combathlete on our roster. It is massively helpful. Why? Because it helps avoid overtraining, burnout, and most importantly, stupid injuries. So that's what we're going to cover today. Let's have a look. So what you need to know, what is the formula for tracking your workload? Okay, there is a formula to it. There is a method to the madness. We're not guessing anything. We're trying to track as best as possible. How do you use that formula? Don't worry, it's not too scientific. It's not too mathematical, but it works really, really well. And most importantly, what are the benefits? How is it going to help you with your training? So let's start with the formula then, the TRIMP formula. Not strictly speaking the traditional TRIMP formula, but the modified version. What does TRIMP stand for? It's really simple: training impulse. This was a traditional formula that was used years ago, and originally it was the duration of your training session in minutes, okay, so 60 minutes, 90 minutes, multiplied by the average heart rate that was measured across that session. Now, if you're involved in combat sports, which watching this, I hope that you are, you'll understand the difficulties of wearing a heart rate monitor when you're training combat sports of any variety. It's very, very tricky, okay? If you're wearing a chest strap, very often, if it's not in the right place, it's going to cause you or someone else some discomfort. The bands that you can put on your arm are just not that accurate. Why? Because they're not over the heart, they're on your arm. So there's a delay and there's a bit of inaccuracy there. And then anything that's on your wrist or your ankle is so far away from the heart that it just doesn't really give us a good reading. So the original TRIMP formula, we had to kind of modify a little bit as it relates to combat sports and as it relates to tracking your workload. So the modified version then that we use, and this is what we use at Combathlete, is we use the RPE score, the rate of perceived exertion score. What is that? Now, this little graphic here shows you, there's a few things on this graphic, but the bit to pay attention to here is the left-hand side, the RPE scale. So just quickly, if you've never seen it before, an RPE 1 would be one of the easiest things you've ever done. And you could do it all day for hours and hours on end. An RPE 10, on the other hand, will be so brutal, someone needs to pass you the sick bucket. And then there's everything in between. It's a subjective scale, but it's very, very useful as it relates to how much effort you're putting in. Very often we use this with lifting weights, okay, in the strength and conditioning setting. We use it with conditioning modalities as well. But in this sense, we're also going to use it as we track our workloads and we track our training sessions as a whole. So we still keep the duration part in minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, however long your training sessions are. But now we multiply it by one of these numbers, between 1 and 10 on the scale. I'll admit this is not perfect, okay? This measuring method is not perfect. As you're already probably thinking, well, yeah, but fighters are really tough. Combat sports athletes are tough. Their RPE 7 might be, an average Joe's RPE 10. Yeah, that is true, but it is better than nothing. And this method, we've seen some fantastic results using it. And it's better to track your workload than guess. And it's very, very helpful to do so, as I'll show you further on in this kind of presentation. So how do you use it? How do you use this TRIMP, modified TRIMP score, this formula? So in previous videos that you'll see, if you're in the Skool group, congratulations, because you'll get access to all these free courses. We recorded some courses on how to structure your training year and how to structure your training week. And in that, we talked about the importance of the high-low structure. Okay, so we used workload tracking to assist us to create a high-low structure throughout our training weeks. If you haven't already, make sure you screenshot this table. If you're in the Skool group, you'll be able to download this as part of this course anyway. And we categorize our training into high intensity methods as it relates to affecting our nervous system and low intensity. And that's how we organize our training weeks in short. And if you want more detail, go back and check out those other courses I just mentioned. But in short, we alternate days of high intensity training and we follow them with days with low intensity training. And that way, it's far more sustainable. We track our workload daily, Monday to Sunday. If you ask any of the combathletes that I work with, whether it's amateur or professional, they will tell you that they are tracking their workloads Monday to Sunday. Okay, it's really, really important. And what happens is, as I'm about to show you, patterns will emerge each month, giving us a really good understanding on what the average workload is for that athlete. What can they do month after month, sensibly, sustainably? And then where we're going wrong, we might be going wrong somewhere. And I'm going to show you some common mistakes in a minute where I expect if you're watching this and you're not tracking your workload, you're making some of these mistakes. And then how to undo those mistakes and actually set yourself up for success with a high-low format. So let's go through this little presentation just as an adjunct here. Most combat sports athletes make massive mistakes when planning their training weeks. And here's why. So when I first take a look at how much work they're doing each week, how much work a new combathlete is doing when they sign up with me for some online coaching, this is what I usually see, okay? The first couple of weeks of tracking their workload, you see this, okay? Escalating amounts of work each day until they peak, okay? So here we've got Monday, a little bit of work, Tuesday, a bit more, Wednesday, a bit more, Thursday, this is as much as the athlete can do. And then now look, we're going back down, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, minimal amounts. Yeah, so escalating and then reducing. The trouble with this bell curve approach, you'll see that this pattern, this bell curve is what is produced from this, is it's very rarely a sustainable option week after week. You can do it here and there, and I'm sure watching this, you've done this here and there in your weeks, but what usually happens is the athlete is forced to rest completely for a few days, okay? Why are they forced to rest? Probably because they're either tired, sick, or mildly injured, right? With some stupid injury, usually. This is what we see. And if you look back on your own training and ask yourself why you had to take a break, it's probably because one of these three. Getting sick as well is really, really common when athletes follow this kind of escalating bell curve approach to their training weeks. So a much better option then, as we just talked about, is the adapted version of Charlie Francis's high-low model. And this is what I just mentioned. We alternate high-intensity days with low-intensity days. And this model allows you to train week after week without having to take those forced mini breaks that I just spoke about, because you're tired, because you're sick, because you're overtraining, or because you're injured. Okay, so here we have low into high, medium, let's say, into high, into low, into high. And that gives us an undulating high-low model, far, far more effective. So although this can take a bit of planning to begin with, that is the high-low structure, the model, the high-low model, it works really, really well. And what we do at Combathlete with all our athletes is we help you and we guide you on how to set up your optimal training week, right? A week that you can repeat throughout the year so that you can push your skills, you can improve, and then not get left behind, basically, because you're missing out because of those stupid injuries or because you've been overtraining. Okay, so this is what it looks like across a month. And I spoke earlier about patterns emerging. When you track your workload for a month, you will see really quickly if you're making mistakes or not. So here's an example of one of my athletes of what it looked like across a month. And you can see actually they've done quite a good job of some high-low in here because the bars, the colors are undulating. Now, the only difference is on this readout here, you'll see there's some blue and some red. That's because we're tracking work done in the morning and work done in the afternoon. Very often for my pros and guys that are, amateur wanting to turn professional, they're doing double sessions in a day at least. They're training in the mornings, they're training in the afternoons, or they're training in both the morning and afternoon. So we track both of those, and that's what the blue and the red is here on this readout for a month. The important part to understand, however, and like I said, this is not perfect, but this high-low model is a guide, and if you stick to it, it yields high levels of sustainability. We see this across the board with the athletes that we work with. What does that mean? It means more skills training. And what does that mean? It means more wins. Really simple. So how do you use it then? Okay, you've been tracking, and all right, you understand there is some tracking involved. There's a formula involved. What does it look like? It's really, really simple. Okay, and you're going to get access to this tracker if you're in the Skool group. You'll get a free download for a whole year, so you can track your training for a year. The days are listed out for the month. Okay, and all we do is an AM column, and then there's a PM column. Okay, so we've got the AM column here, and we've got the PM column here. And these numbers are just all the training that was done in the morning, and these numbers is all the training that was done in the afternoon. You can see in this snapshot, this athlete trains more in the afternoon. The formula is still the same. Duration of the session in minutes multiplied by the RPE number. Okay, so for example here, where it's like 400, yeah, that might be an RPE 4 for 100 minutes. Okay, and that would give us the workload score of 400, etc., working your way down throughout the month. And this is what it spits out in terms of a pattern. Okay, what do we track then? We're talking workloads. What is workloads? Well, strength and conditioning is a type of workload. So we definitely track that. How long did you do your strength and conditioning session for in minutes? And how difficult was the session overall on the RPE scale out of 10? We track your skills training, okay? Obviously, really important. You're doing your kickboxing or your wrestling or your MMA sparring or your grappling, your jiu-jitsu. We track that, how long the training session was and how difficult it was as a whole out of 10. Also, very often, most combat athletes have day jobs. A vast proportion of combat athletes have physical day jobs. Yeah, if you're building roads or you're a carpenter or you're a landscaper, you need to be tracking that, because that contributes to how much work you're doing each week. Yeah, if you're shoveling 8 tons of dirt each day as a landscaper, do you really need to be doing 2 hours in the gym 3 times a week, lifting weights on top of that? Probably not. And if you're tracking your workload, you can see this, that your physical day job is a kind of strain on the system. Okay, you need to track that. We also track rest days. What's the RPE of a rest day? Well, there isn't an RPE of the rest day, but it's important to see where the athlete is taking rest as well as when the athlete is working. And that way we can see the patterns. Again, the patterns are the most important part here. If you want to optimize your training week, you need to be looking at some kind of pattern to optimize in the first place. It sounds so obvious when you say it, but it's amazing how many athletes don't do this. We also track recovery modalities, okay? Sauna, 20 minutes, sports massage, 90 minutes. We don't necessarily assign an RPE score to the recovery, but we do track it. And the reason for that is over time, you can see what the athlete responds well to. It seems to be quite an individual thing, recovery, what athletes like, what they respond to. We can see it across a month. Okay, sauna for 20 minutes twice a week is really working for you. Keep doing it. Or a sports massage once a month for 60 to 90 minutes is really working. Keep doing it. And this is what we track on that workload tracker, these 3 areas. Okay, so here's an interesting one then. What are the benefits? Because it sounds like a lot of admin, it sounds like a lot of work to me. Tell me, what are the benefits? Here's a really obvious one. It gives you clear visual feedback with that graph, with those patterns of what you actually do in a month. When I speak to combathletes on the phone, people that want to work with me potentially, or people that just need help, I ask them, what do you know about workload tracking and how much are you currently doing of it? It's a resounding 9 out of 10 of them do not know how much work they're doing each week. Like objectively, they can't give me a figure, they can't give me a number, and they're just guessing. They don't actually know what they're doing. They're basically winging it week to week. You can't reach the top if you're winging it. It's very easy to identify overtraining early. Okay, if you're using that bell curve approach and then you're just having weeks off from training, we can see that and we can identify that you're overtraining early. Or if you're doing back to back high intensity days, okay, we can see that. And at Combathlete, all right, this is anecdotal, but I can tell you from my coaching experience, we have seen a reduction in avoidable, stupid injuries when we track the workload. I've also had athletes make mistakes as well. They've come back from a layoff and they've jumped in from 0 hours of skills training, jumping into a 10-hour training week and then wondering why their elbow hurts the next day. We can then look at that workload tracking of that spike going into 10 hours of training across the week and say, look, this is the reason your elbow is hurting. You didn't gradually reintroduce training after a layoff. You just jumped in the deep end. No wonder the body is complaining. Okay, that's a stupid mistake. We can avoid that. And we can avoid that by looking at the patterns of what a properly reintroduced workload would look like. And these are all the things that we help our combathletes with. So you will get the free Combathlete workload management matrix tracker, which I just showed you a glimpse of a few slides previous, attached to this video and this course in the school group, Combathletes Worldwide. So if you haven't joined already, make sure you join, because you'll be able to download this. You'll get the rest of 2025 as a tracker in there, and then it's very easy for you to use and fill in. This is what it looks like. So you have your days of the month listed down one side. You have your AM column, your PM column, and then any rest days. And then as you fill it in, the bars will show on the graph, the patterns will emerge, and you'll be able to see across an entire month what you're actually doing and just get rid of all that guesswork. Combathletes Worldwide then is the school group. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you check the description below for a link. Click that and you can join for free, absolutely zero charge whatsoever. When you join the school community, you'll also be able to book a free performance call with me. As I do believe, and I've said it before, a good coach should be able to influence and change the trajectory of an athlete's future training and path of their physical athletic career with just a 10-minute phone call. Okay, so you'll be able to book a free performance call with me, and I will try and help you with your training as much as possible on that call. Make sure you follow Combathlete Arena on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then you can drop me a DM, like I said at the beginning of the video, on Instagram. What are you struggling with your strength and conditioning? What are you stuck with? What's getting in the way of you getting to that next level? Drop me a message. I'll see if I can help you. And as always, my name's Coach Harry. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.